Hey guys, welcome to the Aritiflick Platform's Insider's Guide. If you've been following the startup series, you'll know that we've been building a new kind of home for indie publishers. Today, I want to take you on a full tour of what we've been building so far. So we can't really write your novels for you, but we've built everything else that you might need to bring that story to life. So at the heart of it, Aritiflick is an indie publishing platform. It is a place where you can create your work, publish your work, and monetize it, all the while keeping a direct relationship with the people that care about it. You can think of it a little bit like Substack. So Substack lets writers publish newsletters, blogs, podcasts, or videos directly to subscribers. Aritiflick, on the other hand, is built for story creators. We let you publish novels, graphic novels, and eventually animation directly to your subscribers. But the important part is not just the format, it's the relationship. In an age of AI where content is easier to generate and even easier to flood everywhere, I think it's even more important for real creators and real readers to come together. So this platform is built around that idea. No exclusivity contracts, no locking you away from other platforms, just tools to help you create, publish, and build a direct audience around your work. And one quick thing before we get into the novel tools. A lot of indie authors that I've talked to are really interested in the graphic novel side of Aritiflick, and that's a big part of the long-term vision. For example, a novel publisher can release their work here on the platform, and then later another artist or creator could come in and adapt that story into a graphic novel on the same platform, with royalties flowing back to the original creator. But mainly for this video, I just wanted to focus on the novel publishing experience. So let's jump right into it. I'll show you how it looks to create your publishing studio, set up a project, write and plan your book, format it, and finally publish it to your readers. So the first thing you create on Aritiflick is your studio. This is sort of like your home base. It is where readers can find you, subscribe to you, and discover the work that you're building. So the easiest way to explain it is that your studio is kind of like having your own Substack publication, but built specifically around books and story worlds. Similar to Substack, you can get your own subdomain, and the same fits naturally here too. But you can bring in your own custom domain if you wanted to. The goal is that your studio can live on your own domain, so it feels like your own publishing home instead of just another profile page. Readers can subscribe to you and your studio, then you can write newsletters to them whenever you have updates. Maybe you're announcing to your readers that you're working on a new chapter, a pre-order, a release date, or maybe some behind the scenes post. Or maybe you're just letting them know simply what you're up to. The difference is that your studio is actually where your work lives. So instead of sending people to a newsletter and then linking them out to Amazon or somewhere else, you can just funnel your readers back to your studio. This matters because if your readers buy your work through a retailer, you typically don't know who they are. So you don't get that full relationship, you don't get the email list, you really don't get that same full transparency. On Aritiflick, the point is to help you build around your readers directly. That doesn't mean you can never publish anywhere else. Again, there are no exclusivity contracts. It just means you have a central place that belongs to you. Okay, so now that your studio exists, let's create a project. This is where the book itself begins. For this demo, we're just gonna make a project from scratch. We'll give it a title and add some basic details, then jump into the manuscript editor. So in here, this is where you can start writing immediately. If you already have a book in progress, you don't need to start over. You can just import an existing docx file directly into your editor. This is important because most authors already have drafts somewhere, maybe in Microsoft Word, maybe in Google Docs, maybe in another writing app. So here I'm importing an existing manuscript file, and this is not just a tiny test document. The editor is built to handle real manuscripts, including documents well over 10,000 words. But once the document is imported, you can see the manuscripts broken into sections on the left side. From here, you can continue writing, maybe reorganize your chapters, or start using the other views around the manuscript. Okay, so default view is the writing view. This is just a clean editor where you can focus on the actual text of your manuscript. But sometimes you don't want to just look at the book as a wall of prose. Sometimes you want to see the structure, and this is where the different views come in. So the corkboard gives you a visual way to think about your chapters or your scenes. You can use it to see the shape of your story and move pieces around more easily. Then there's the outliner. This is more structured. It is for when you want to see the manuscript in a list, maybe scan through some sections, and understand the order of the book at a glance. And we also have split screen functionalities, useful when you want to compare two parts of your manuscript. Maybe you're referencing one chapter while working on another. And you can also have your notes open on the side while you're writing. But let's move on to the planning side. So inside the planning canvas, you can create whatever structure you want. If you want a folder for magical systems, research, or just some random ideas you have, you can also do that. But by default, the characters and places folders are already there for you. That gives you a starting point without actually forcing you into one exact planning method. So if we open up the characters folder, you can create a character card. This is where you can utilize the panels to keep details like their role in the story, motivation, maybe some backstory stuff. You could also connect some relationships with other character cards that you might have. You can do the same thing for locations. You can keep track of the settings, some important details, or how a place just connects with the plot, or whatever scenes happen there. So the panels are just there to make the notes more useful while you work. The point here really is that we're trying to give you a flexible space to choose whatever approach that you might take. But I do want to show this timeline panel separately. It's particularly used to keep track of when things happen. So in the background, I already set up a few story events. These could be major plot points, some character moments, some flashbacks, or whatever else you might think of. So you can add these timeline panels in the canvas and link them together in whatever order you want to show some sort of causation. So once your chapters are ready, you may want feedback on your manuscript. So let's take a look at the export and review process that we have. So you can send out exactly what's ready, maybe it's one chapter or a group of them, whichever one. And review is for when you're working with an editor that you may have found yourself. So you can add that editor into your studio and they can work with you inside the project. They can come in and leave suggestions on part of your stories, or they can make some insertions into the manuscript itself. But you still stay in control. You can come in, you can review those changes and approve or reject them before they become part of your manuscript. So instead of passing around turned versions of the same Word document, the editing process can just all live in one place, and your collaboration because of this can hopefully stay organized. But before we move on to the formatting, I quickly want to show you guys the design library. This is where you can store files that belong to your project. So that could be anything you may want to use later or just share with the people that are working with you on the project. But let's now go ahead and send the manuscript to be formatted. Once you send it, the work appears in the formatting editor, completely ready for you. On the left side, you can see the spine contents of your book, the structure being the front matter, the chapters you worked on in the manuscript editor, and also including the back matter. Over here in the middle, you can edit different sections. Depending on the section, you can also adjust some text directly, but by default, the title page is already added for you. And if you want to add more elements, whether it be the front matter or the back matter, you can use the button below. So if you need an acknowledgements page or a copyright page, maybe a dedication, you can add those into your book structure. And then finally on the right side, you can preview how the book will look. You can preview the digital version in different screen sizes, so you can get a sense of how readers will experience it on the platform. And you can also preview the print version. So in the print settings, you can choose the actual trim size of the book. So you should be able to see what's happening to your book as you make changes. Now let's quickly look at the styles. There are a few style presets you can pick depending on how you want your book to feel. Maybe you might want something more clean, I don't know. But once you pick a style, you can customize it further. You can click in the style settings and adjust details like the heading, the first paragraph, or the header and footer. So this gives you a balance. You don't really have to design your book from nothing, but also you're not stuck with a rigid template. Once you're happy with how your book looks, you can publish it to the platform. You can publish it as a digital novel, and you can also publish it as a physical novel. For physical books, the goal is to fulfill orders through print-on-demand partners like Lulu or BookVault. You as the author can choose whichever provider you want, and they would handle the printing and delivery of each order. There would still be printing costs, which is just the reality of it, but this model can be much better for royalties than traditionally wide distribution in a lot of cases. Like with wide distributions, retailers usually need a high wholesale discount, which can be around 50%. Then you still have to subtract the printing costs after that. So by the time everything is taken out, you're usually left with very little per book sale. And sometimes it can feel like pennies. With Aritiflick, the idea is more direct. For work monetized on the platform, we just take 10% from the digital and printed sales. The rest after any printing or payment processing costs stays with the creator. And just as important, you know who's actually buying your book. You can build your email lists, understand your readers, and actually keep that relationship transparent instead of having it hidden behind a retailer. Now, to be fair, we don't really have that brand recognition like Amazon's KDP or Ingram Spark or even Substack. We are still very early, so we don't really come with a massive inbuilt audience just yet. So if you do publish here, you would still need to market your work, telling people about it and having to bring them to your studio. But the difference here is where you send them. Instead of sending every reader to somewhere you don't control, you can instead send them to your studio. They can subscribe there, they can read your work and your updates, and it would all just be in one place. And compared to Substack, the difference here really is in terms of specialization. Like Substack is great for newsletters or serialized writing, but it's not really built as a centralized home for novels. Like sure, you can link people out to Amazon or some other store, you can serialize your work, but if your main thing is publishing books, then that format can feel a bit unorthodox. So what Aritiflick is trying to give novel publishers is a home where newsletters, manuscripts, formatting, publishing, and the reader relationships all connect in one place. So that is the novel publishing insider's guide of Aritiflick. If you're an indie publisher, that is what I want Aritiflick to become for you, a publishing studio of your own.